Welcome to Max Premieres. 2026 is packed with series that are going to dominate conversations for months ahead. Today, I'm bringing you 25 titles you can't miss this year, from dark family drama to epic science fiction, from comedies with heart to crime thrillers that will keep you completely hooked, going from worst to best with my completely honest take on each one. If you find that useful, it would help me a lot if you left a like and subscribed. Thanks so much for your support. Number 25. The Miniature Wife. Lindy and Les have spent years supporting each other's careers on a rotating system. One advances while the other waits. Lindy supported him for years. Now it's her turn, and Les is determined to return that support regardless of circumstances. Then, a completely unexpected technological accident physically alters them in ways neither anticipated, and what should have been a supportive partnership dynamic becomes a battle of egos, ambition, and survival that tests everything they thought they knew about their marriage. The miniaturization premise uses power imbalance in couples as its central metaphor, and if the screenplay properly exploits what it has, this could be one of the year's most original comedies. Based on Manuel Gonzalez's novel, it has that kind of fully committed absurdity that, when it works, is completely irresistible. Elizabeth Banks and Matthew Macfadyen lead with exactly the chemistry this material demands, two performers who know how to build that dynamic naturally. Number 24. Lanterns. Rookie Jon Stewart partners with legendary Green Lantern Hal Jordan to investigate a brutal murder in the heart of America. As the two intergalactic peacekeepers dig deeper into the case, they uncover a dark conspiracy threatening not just the planet but the wider universe they are sworn to protect. The friction between the confident veteran and the recruit still testing his limits is the central dramatic engine of a series that appears to bet more on the contained crime thriller than on conventional massive superhero spectacle. James Gunn described it as something like True Detective, but with Green Lanterns, exactly the kind of combination that sounds difficult to pull off in practice, but brilliant on paper. Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart is casting that generates real anticipation. The first major television bet of James Gunn's new DCU. Number 23. DTF St. Louis. In the city of St. Louis, the lives of three middle-aged people collide when friendship slowly transforms into a complicated love triangle. Secrets, jealousy, and selfish desires spiral out of control toward betrayal and a shocking death that changes everything. The series has the structure of a thriller, but the heart of a dramatic comedy about the decisions we make when we stop paying attention to ourselves and to the people around us. The title, the name of a dating app within the show, establishes from the very first moment a tone that mixes the frivolity of contemporary social rituals with the very real and serious consequences of that frivolity when limits are ignored. Netflix has a solid track record with middle-aged character drama, and if the series has the courage to fully commit to its darker tone, it could become one of the year's surprises. Number 22. The Burbs. A young couple returns to the quiet suburban street where the husband grew up, hoping for the peace of a fresh start. Instead, strange neighbors and unsettling events begin raising suspicions they can't ignore. When curiosity turns into obsession, they uncover dark secrets hiding beneath the neighborhood's seemingly perfect surface that nobody on the block wanted them to find. The TV adaptation of the classic 1989 Tom Hanks film updates the concept with contemporary aesthetics and pacing. The original material has the right mix of paranoia, dark comedy, and suburban horror that makes excellent television seasons when well executed. The question is whether the series has the courage to commit to the darker elements of the concept or prefers to soften them for a broader audience. If it does the former, it could be one of the year's most pleasant streaming surprises. Number 21. Spider Noir. New York City in the 1930s. Private Detective Ben Reilly was the Spider, the city's masked hero. That chapter of his life is supposed to be permanently closed. But the rain-soaked streets and the corruption filling every corner of the city don't give him the option of staying on the sidelines. A new case finds him even though he isn't looking for one, and the past he buried begins resurfacing inevitably. The Prime Video series will launch in two simultaneous versions, black and white for the complete classic noir experience and in color for those who prefer a more contemporary aesthetic. That creative decision alone says something about the level of artistic commitment from the team behind the project. Nicolas Cage plays Ben Reilly, exactly the kind of casting that doesn't fully make sense until you see it working. For those who enjoy hard-boiled crime mixed with superheroes rather than conventional massive action spectacle, this could be the platform's most original series of the year. Number 20. Lucky. A former criminal trying to build an honest life is pulled back into danger when powerful enemies threaten everything she has built. With no visible way out, she agrees to one final risky job, hoping that mission will finally buy her the freedom she has spent years trying to achieve through legitimate means. Apple TV Plus continues expanding its catalog of female-led action series, and Lucky appears to have the irreverent energy and self-awareness needed to work in the genre without falling into the usual cliches. The combination of dark comedy and action with a protagonist whose morality is ambiguous out of necessity rather than caprice has all the right ingredients. The key will be whether the screenplay can sustain the tension between the desire to leave the criminal world and the practical impossibility of doing so cleanly. An interesting promise that depends entirely on the execution of whoever is cast as protagonist. Number 19. His and Hers. A determined journalist returns to her hometown to investigate a shocking murder and immediately collides with a local detective who believes she's interfering with his case. While both pursue the truth from completely different angles, buried secrets begin to surface, and it becomes clear that someone involved is hiding something that could destroy everything they care about. The provincial crime thriller structure with two investigators in conflict who must eventually cooperate is a proven format, and the series appears to understand well that the difference between good and excellent in that format lies in character depth rather than case twists. If His and Hers devotes as much time to building its protagonists as to solving the central mystery, it could become one of the platform's best thrillers of the year. The journalist and detective dynamic is the central bet, exactly the kind of conflict that generates good drama when both sides are simultaneously right. Number 18. Scarpetta. Dr. Kay Scarpetta, a brilliant and stubborn forensic pathologist, uses cutting-edge forensic science to uncover the truth behind complex and disturbing crimes. While she studies evidence others overlook, her investigations reveal dark motives and hidden killers that the conventional system would never have found on its own. Nicole Kidman plays Scarpetta in this television adaptation of Patricia Cornwell's famous novel saga, one of the best-selling criminal fiction series of the past 4 decades. Prime Video bet heavily with the production, and the central casting is exactly the quality guarantee the material deserves. Forensic pathologist Kay Scarpetta is one of the most complex and well-constructed characters in all of contemporary crime literature, and if the series does justice to that complexity, it could become the definitive adaptation that fans of the books have been waiting years for. Nicole Kidman has exactly the right kind of intensity for the character. Number 17. The Beauty. A new sexually transmitted disease called the Beauty grants those who contract it perfect physical appearance before slowly and inevitably killing them. Detectives Cooper Madsen and Jordan Bennett investigate crimes connected to the condition, and as the case grows more complex, they uncover corruption and a conspiracy that goes far beyond what anyone anticipated at the start. The Beauty is one of the year's most original and daring series if the team has the courage to fully commit to what its premise implies. Disease as an object of desire before it becomes poison is a disturbing idea that opens questions about the obsession with physical appearance in contemporary culture. The combination of crime thriller with this medical horror science fiction has enormous potential to produce something unique if the screenplay matches the premise. For those seeking series that aren't afraid to go to dark and morally uncomfortable places, this is exactly the right bet. Number 16. 56 Days. Oliver and Kiara meet by chance in a supermarket and fall into a fast and intense romance during lockdown. 56 days later, a brutally murdered body is discovered inside an apartment, and investigators must unravel their relationship to find the truth behind what happened during those weeks of isolation. The adaptation of Catherine Ryan Howard's novel uses lockdown as the perfect frame for a claustrophobic psychological thriller, where the characters have no escape from each other, and that very fact defines and eventually destroys them. The structure alternating between the romance and the subsequent investigation that retrospectively analyzes it is exactly the kind of narrative construction Netflix has executed well in its best thrillers. If the series maintains ambiguity about who is lying and about what for long enough, it could be one of the platform's best whodunits of the year. The source material has exactly the right tension. Number 15. Something very bad is going to happen. A wedding approaches and an inexplicable sense of unease spreads among all the people involved in the celebration. Strange events and mounting tension build during the week before the ceremony, creating a chilling sense that something terrible is about to unfold without anyone being able to identify exactly what or where it's coming from. The horror premise set in the context of a wedding carries specific cultural weight. It's supposed to be the happiest day of someone's life, which makes any disturbance doubly disturbing. The slow burn atmospheric horror format that accumulates tension without revealing its nature across episode after episode has excellent precedence in streaming. If the series has the patience not to resolve its premise too quickly and the skill to maintain the atmosphere of threat without making it risible, it could become one of the platform's best horror productions in a long time. Number 14. Scrubs. JD and Turk return to Sacred Heart Hospital, where a new generation of interns begins their medical careers. Medicine and technology have changed radically, but their friendship remains intact, bringing the same humor, chaos, and heartfelt lessons the original series delivered across 9 seasons. The Scrubs revival has the advantage of bringing back the original creators along with Zach Braff and Donald Faison, whose chemistry is the irreplaceable core of everything that made the show work. The risk of any revival is that the audience who loved the original has changed as much as the characters, and the formula that worked in 2001 may feel anachronistic 2 decades later. But Scrubs has something many medical series lack: the willingness to be simultaneously ridiculous and emotionally devastating within the same episode, sometimes the same scene. If the revival has that courage, it belongs on any list of the year. Number 13. Star Wars: Maul, Shadow Lord. Times have changed and the apprentice has become Lord. After the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, the feared Sith warrior Maul works from the shadows to rebuild the vast criminal empire he once controlled before his defeat. From a remote world beyond Imperial reach, he gathers ruthless allies and manipulates the galactic underworld while planning personal revenge against those who betrayed him. 10 episodes with the finale timed specifically to coincide with Star Wars Day on May 5th. The tone is darker than most franchise content, closer to a noir-style criminal power story than a conventional good versus evil adventure. Maul is one of the most underused characters in all of Star Wars history, and this series has the opportunity to close that deficit definitively. If the execution matches the premise, it could become one of the best series in the entire franchise in a very long time. Number 12. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. A century before the events of Game of Thrones, the clumsy but honorable Sir Duncan the Tall travels across Westeros alongside his clever young squire Egg. At each destination they reach, they encounter political intrigue, tournaments filled with real danger, and an era slowly approaching its end during the final years of the Targaryen dynasty before its inevitable decline. The HBO production is based on George R.R. Martin's Tales of Dunk and Egg 3 novellas, loaded with the same historical detail and moral complexity that made A Song of Ice and Fire so influential in contemporary fantasy. The tone is different from the main series, more intimate and less apocalyptic. But precisely that more human scale may be exactly what the universe needs to breathe and show dimensions the larger productions can't explore with the same depth. Number 11. Imperfect Women. A wealthy and seemingly perfect woman is found murdered, and investigators begin uncovering the layers of secrets hidden beneath her glamorous life. Friends, family, and rivals all become suspects as the case exposes betrayals, lies, and the deeply complicated relationships between 3 women whose lives were intertwined in ways none of them had ever fully admitted. HBO has an excellent track record with the high-profile female drama thriller format since Big Little Lies, and Imperfect Women appears consciously designed for that space. The source material is Araminta Hall's novel, known for its high-tension psychological thrillers set in privileged social circles. If the cast matches the level of the material, and the production has the courage not to soften the book's darker conflicts, it could be the next great series of the genre on HBO. Expectations among fans of the novel are considerable. Number 10. The Testaments. Set years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale, the story continues through the perspectives of three women whose lives gradually intersect. As resistance grows in the shadows, dangerous secrets and hidden alliances threaten the future of Gilead's oppressive regime and everyone living under it. The adaptation of Margaret Atwood's second novel closes the narrative arc of the Gilead universe in a way the Handmaid's Tale series never could or chose to do. Aunt Lydia, one of the most fascinating and morally complex characters in the entire saga, has a central role in this story, and that alone justifies the expectation. Ann Dowd, who played the character for years in the original series, has the opportunity to give her the ending the character always deserved on screen. For fans of Atwood's saga, this is the closure they were waiting for. For new viewers, it is accessible without having seen everything that came before. Number 9. Bait. A struggling actor who finally gets close to the role of a lifetime discovers that reality begins to unravel around him in ways he can't explain or control. Strange events pull him into a hidden conspiracy, while he faces a deepening existential crisis where fame, identity, and truth collide in ways impossible to separate. The series appears to operate in that space between conspiracy thriller and psychological drama, where the best Black Mirror episodes have demonstrated it's possible to say something genuinely unsettling about the nature of reality, the desire to be seen. If Bait has the courage to commit to the instability of its premise all the way to the end without seeking convenient resolutions, it could be one of the platform's most disturbing and intelligent series of 2026. The concept of an actor losing the boundary between his character and his real identity has enormous potential when executed with honesty. Number 8. Vanished. What began as a romantic getaway in France turns into a terrifying mystery when Alice Munro's boyfriend disappears during a train trip to Arles. As she searches for answers, she uncovers disturbing clues that reveal a parallel life he never told her about, a completely different identity from the one she believed she knew throughout the time they were together. The hidden identity thriller in the context of romance and European travel has a long tradition in the genre, and when it works well, it's one of the most addictive formats for series audiences. The key for Vanished will be whether it manages to maintain ambiguity about whether the missing boyfriend is a victim or a perpetrator, long enough for both possibilities to be equally believable. The French locations add exactly the right atmosphere, and if the cast matches the material, it could be one of Netflix's surprises of the year. Number 7. Steel. A completely ordinary office worker unexpectedly finds herself caught in the heist of the century when a powerful criminal organization targets the company where she works. As the robbery escalates into chaos, she must outwit both the thieves and the authorities while fighting to survive a plan that was always far bigger than anyone around her admitted. Steel has the energy of the best wrong place, wrong time action films applied to the series format, with enough time to develop characters beyond their functions in the heist scheme. The ordinary protagonist in an extraordinary situation is one of the most satisfying character arcs when the screenplay treats her intelligently and doesn't suddenly turn her into a superhero without real narrative justification. If the series maintains the feeling that the central character is genuinely surviving with her actual resources rather than abilities she never had, it can be very effective. Number 6. The Madison. After a devastating tragedy shatters the balance of their world, a wealthy New York family retreats to the quiet landscapes of rural Montana in an attempt to heal. While they struggle with grief and the fractured relationships the tragedy exposed, the journey forces them to confront painful memories and rediscover the connection and meaning they believed they had lost forever. The family grief drama set in remote locations is territory the best independent cinema has explored masterfully, and that television rarely manages to equal because the extended format can dilute emotional intensity. If The Madison has writing precise enough to sustain the central emotion throughout the entire season without falling into easy sentimentality, it could be one of the year's most moving and honest series. The performances and Montana photography will be determining factors for those seeking television that takes grief seriously as an experience. Number 5. Gone. When Sarah Polley suddenly disappears, suspicion falls almost immediately on her husband, respected local headmaster Michael Polley. Determined detective Annie Cassidy begins digging into the case, and what she finds leads her into a tense psychological battle where both sides play a dangerous game of truth and deception while secrets surface one by one. The disappearance thriller with the husband as primary suspect is one of the most executed formats in modern streaming, and the difference between doing it well and doing it memorably lies exclusively in the depth of the central characters. If Annie Cassidy is as interesting as the case, she investigates, and if Michael Pauly has enough complexity for his guilt or innocence to be genuinely ambiguous through to the end, Gone could be one of Netflix's best thrillers of the year. The chain of trust between the characters and the viewer is everything in this type of narrative. Number 4. Young Sherlock. A young and disgraced Sherlock Holmes finds himself accused in a shocking murder case that threatens to destroy his future before it begins. Determined to prove his innocence, he launches his first real investigation and discovers a conspiracy stretching across an entire continent in ways that will change his destiny forever. The origin premise for the most adapted character in detective literature history carries the obvious risk of feeling too familiar in a world that has already seen dozens of versions. What could differentiate young Sherlock is tone. If the series has the courage to show Holmes before he developed his characteristic infallibility, before he became the character everyone knows it can offer something, no other version of the character has fully explored. A Holmes who can be wrong, who can be vulnerable, who is still forming as a detective and as a person, is genuinely new in the landscape of character adaptations. Number 3. Wonder Man. Simon Williams has spent his entire life trying to get his acting career off the ground with no notable success. What he doesn't know is that he also possesses extraordinary superhuman powers he has systematically ignored because acting was his absolute priority. When a mysterious government agent sees an opportunity in that improbable combination, Simon becomes the most unlikely superpowered companion the Marvel Cinematic Universe has produced. Ben Kingsley returns to the MCU in this superhero comedy directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, the same director behind Shang-Chi, guaranteeing a tone that balances humor and action without sacrificing either. In the MCU, this kind of character comedy about someone who doesn't quite know they have powers worked better than anyone expected with She-Hulk. If Wonder Man has the same level of self-awareness and willingness to laugh at the genre while fully inhabiting it, it could be one of the MCU's most entertaining television series. Number 2. Star Trek: Starfleet Academy. At the legendary Starfleet Academy, ambitious cadets train to become the next generation of officers exploring the galaxy. As they navigate friendships, rivalries, and romance, they also face a mysterious threat that could endanger both the Academy and the future of the United Federation of Planets they are sworn to serve. The series offers something the Star Trek universe has rarely shown with sufficient screen time: the formation process of characters before they become the heroes they will eventually be. Starfleet Academy is one of the most mentioned and least explored elements in all of the universe's mythology, and placing it at the center of a full series is a narratively intelligent decision. If the series strikes the right balance between the characters' coming of age and the scale of the threat they face, it could be the most accessible modern Star Trek series for new viewers, and one of the most satisfying for franchise fans. Number 1. Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Season 2. The revelation that titans like Godzilla truly exist changed everything humanity thought it knew about its place on the planet. An ordinary family continues unearthing secrets buried in the archives of Monarch, the clandestine organization that has been tracking and concealing the existence of monsters for decades. Their search for answers takes them across dangerous territories and places them at the center of a story far larger than anything they could have imagined at the beginning. Season 1 was one of Apple TV Plus's great surprises and demonstrated that the MonsterVerse universe has far more to offer in television format than anyone could have anticipated before its premiere. Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell in the same project, leveraging their real-life resemblance as father and son across 2 different time periods, was one of the smartest casting decisions of its premiere year. Season 2 has to demonstrate that the universe can sustain the mythology the first season built with such skill. And that's it for today. 25 series to keep on your radar throughout 2026. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. See you soon. Thanks for watching.